Hello and welcome, Sprouts. This is Wes, and today we'll be continuing with a series of new player guides for Final Fantasy XIV. For this episode, we'll be looking at the bulk of Final Fantasy's content, questing and leveling. This is one of the most daunting and confusing parts of the game for many new players, and often gets the most questions. So, let's jump right in to show what new players can expect as they level. Once you've created your character and set up your interface, you will likely want to dive right into exploring the game's content. Like many MMOs, the main way to try out different parts of the game is through questing. Final Fantasy XIV uses three distinct types of quests for combat classes, each with its own unique icon. These three are main scenario quests, which have a ring of flame around them, feature quests, which are blue with a plus sign, and standard side quests, with basic exclamation marks. There are other types of quests for more specialized parts of the game, but these are the three we'll focus on for now. For your first job, your primary method of leveling will come through the main scenario quests. Final Fantasy is unique in that it is treated very much like a mainline game of the franchise, with the main scenario taking your character on a journey through a story. It is one of the main draws of the game, and many aspects of gameplay are locked behind the completion of this story. A new player, for example, cannot simply go out and wander into the world or jump to a new city to play with friends. Final Fantasy XIV instead relies heavily on easing players into the story and systems over the course of your questing. For players coming from other MMOs, this is probably one of the more confusing and sometimes frustrating parts of the game. However, let's take a closer look and understand why all of this works. As a numbered Final Fantasy game, Square wanted to treat the story with a fair amount of weight. Because of this, the main scenario quests are tuned to be your main leveling path. They are experienced in a way that, with only a few small gaps, a character will go from level 1 all the way to endgame almost entirely through the main scenario. There's no doubt that the game starts very slow compared to some other MMOs because of this, and there is a notoriously bad stretch at level 50 that the developers are working to fix for patch 5.3. However, this pacing also allows you to ease into the game's systems and combat. The leveling experience is drastically different than in-game, with an almost overwhelming number of systems, combat abilities, and characters to keep track of. Rather than front-load all of this, the devs allow players to really learn these parts of the game one step at a time so that they are ready for when they reach the endgame. The other big reason for this slow start is because many of the dungeons, trials, characters, and raids tie directly into the main story. Like many Final Fantasy games, Square starts players off as a generic adventurer who gets drawn into forces well beyond their control. While the early parts of the game can be quiet, the time spent meeting with characters and following the story adds up without many players realizing it. As the story progresses, characters you have been with for hours, even days of gameplay, become the sources of the many emotional beats you'll hit throughout your journey. It's what the franchise has done best, and 14 is no exception despite being an MMO. So, long story short, don't be daunted by the slow pace early on. You can simply treat 14 as a traditional Final Fantasy game as you follow the main scenario for your first job. As you unlock more content through these quests, your knowledge and experience grows exponentially so that you can be ready to hit the ground running at max level. Also, because of the main story quests, many people can safely ignore the normal, golden marked side quests unless you need to cover gaps in levels or simply want more world building. Most of those quests are for your next job. The blue-marked feature quests, however, should not be ignored. These are quests that unlock new parts of the game, but are not tied directly into the main storyline. These are usually new dungeons, important game features, new classes, and other necessary parts of the game. While you can usually pick and choose which job quest you want to take up after level 10, I highly recommend doing the other feature quests as they unlock. This is especially important as you reach the end of expansions at level 50, 60, and so on. You will see several of these popping up all at once to unlock raids and other in-game content. Now that you have an overview of the quests, let's take a look at a few of the other game features tied with leveling. Perhaps the most important will be the roulette system. Final Fantasy has a unique way of pulling both veteran and new players together by randomly placing them in dungeons using a variety of options. The leveling roulette, for example, uses a pool of normal dungeons available to players as they level. Trial roulette will randomly select from your available single boss trials. Every day, this roulette system gives an extremely nice chunk of experience for classes below max level, while veteran players are offered excellent rewards to use for in-game content. All characters will be synced to roughly the same level, so everyone can play at the same content regardless of where they are in their overall adventures. More roulette options are unlocked as you unlock more content. Because of the rewards and popularity, understanding and utilizing the roulette system is among the top priorities for new players. Once you have done your daily roulettes, you can also queue for any content you want from the Duty Finder, just like many other MMOs. If you are a tank or a healer with fast queues, this is probably the fastest way to level new jobs. Simply choose the highest level dungeon available to you and keep running them. DPS, however, will find that this is not quite as fast. So, let's take a look at another often used method to level. Final Fantasy has two deep dungeons, the Palace of the Dead in Quarry Mill and Heaven on High in Ankoro. I guess the best way to describe these dungeons is to call them roguelike minigames within Final Fantasy. Characters run through a series of 10 floors at a time using a system of gear and levels that are completely separate from your main content. All of it is self-contained. None of your outside equipment, items, or experience matters here. Instead, you gear up your treasure chest found deep inside these dungeons, and there is a completely separate item system that offers unique buffs to you and your party as you go. If you can finish 10 floors, a hefty amount of experience is added to your job, which is why it is very popular and efficient to run for DPS players. The queue times are much faster than normal dungeons, and party composition does not matter. You can also find unique loot here that can be exchanged for a variety of randomly selected items outside. Some of it can sell for quite a bit, especially the haircut from Heaven on High. There are other ways to gain experience as well, though these are usually in much smaller amounts and mostly used to kill time while waiting for dungeons or to fill gaps in the main story. Fates are one of the more common ones. These are outdoor events in each zone that last a few minutes each. They are tied to the zone's level and must be level synced. Later on, these fates can offer currency and nice rewards in addition to the experience, and certain ones are required for certain quest lines. Lower level players may also like the hunting and challenge logs. Listed here are various enemies and events to complete that reward experience. The Grand Company logs are also required to rank up within the company as you progress. So, there is your general overview of quests and leveling. There are many other parts of the game that can give experience, and crafting classes will have other techniques available to them as well. I hope this gives newcomers a general idea of the main points, however, and offers a way to clear up any confusion you may have when starting out in Eorzea. Best of luck, Sprouts, and happy questing!